Hi, I'm Baruch Halevi, also known as B. Welcome to this series of videos. I put them together in case I'm coming onto your podcast, maybe you're coming onto my podcast, or you just want to get to know me. But I've boiled it down as much as a recovering rabbi can to 4 5-minute videos. Who I am, what I do, and then 2 videos on why I do it. One of them is my book, The Guy in the Glass, and the other one is the podcast, 13 minutes. I'll get there. So again, Baruch, nobody seems to like to say Baruch. Go figure. In America, the ch sound throws people. You don't have to say it. B is just fine. I go by B. Even my own mother calls me B, Baruch or B. Halevi, not again the easiest names. Wait till I get to my kids. My wife Ariella, who is the love of my life. We've been married for 28 years, and I have 4 beautiful kids. Yehuda, 23, Maya, 21, Shoshana, 19, and Aviv, 15. I did that without my iPhone, for the record, not easy. We reside here in Denver, Colorado, where we settled in about 2018. I'll tell you more about that. I'm not from here. Grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, where I was born and raised. Went to the University of Kansas, where I studied philosophy. Fell in love with the mind for the first time. Wasn't much of a student growing up. Was an Enneagram 8, still am. That's a typing system that I use. I'll tell you more in another video, but that's the challenger sometimes on a good day. On a bad day, my wife says the 8-hole, the disruptor. I like to disrupt. I like to challenge the status quo. So growing up, I didn't know how to channel that. And I guess it came out a little more as a bit of the disruptive or maybe the bad boy. But went off to University of Kansas and started to find myself in my mind with philosophy. Loved Greek philosophy. The Stoics in particular was my area of interest. Wanted more, though, emotional development, spiritual development. That's when I found my way to Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer and Earl Nightingale, other great Napoleon Hill, sort of the fathers, if you will, of the self-development or self-help movement, and loved it, but needed more. Wanted something spiritual. Ended up in New York City to try and find myself. Interesting place to try and find anything, let alone yourself. And I did find my way into a bunch of Zen communities, monasteries, and whatnot, and fell in love with meditation and mindfulness practice, a spirituality that I never knew growing up, but I certainly knew I needed. Practiced that for a while. While I was doing that, I realized that, I don't want to say everybody, but a vast, disproportionate amount of people, practitioners, but also teachers were Jewish. And I started to wonder, what's going on here that the religion of my birth has produced so many Buddhist teachers. Started to do some inquiry and met a rabbi who said, you should really go to Israel to learn the origins of your tradition before you go, camp out in somebody else's. I think that was good advice. Went to Israel, fell in love with Judaism that I didn't know growing up. I'll call it Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, more nuanced than that. But it was really a Judaism of spirituality, and studied there for a while and decided I wanted to become a rabbi. I wanted to teach what I had been finding and I hadn't known growing up. And so I studied Kabbalah, became a rabbi, and ended up moving to Los Angeles to finish up my rabbinical school studies. That was about 6 years or so. I met my wife, Ariella, fell in love, raised a family. Did so professionally for a while as a synagogue rabbi, first in LA, then in Des Moines, Iowa. And then finally, before we retired in 2014, in Boston, Massachusetts, technically Swampscott, Marblehead, if you know the area. Amazing communities all along the way. And really loved what I did for a living until I didn't, until it felt like a job and not a calling. At some point along the way, I just realized I didn't want the politics. I didn't want the organized religion. Again, the challenger, the disruptor in me likes to disorganize and build things back together again stronger, but I don't think that's the best thing, or maybe it wasn't the best thing for me as in a congregational setting. I just had sort of been there and done that and wanted to focus on a couple things. Entrepreneurism. Went off to, we moved to Israel. Ariel and I decided we wanted to fulfill a lifelong dream and move to Israel. It would have been my 3rd time living there. Became an Israeli citizen, so I have dual citizenship. And moved our family to Israel, where I became an entrepreneur, Started a series of companies. A couple of them took public, a couple of them folded, and a couple of them have continued on. And I loved being an entrepreneur, but I realized during that time I was always guiding, always counseling, always coaching. And that's really my purpose professionally, in addition to being a husband and a father, and a son and a brother, and all those important things, is to guide people. And I'll tell you more about that in the next video. Decided I could do that better in America. As much as I love Israel, just it's not my native language or culture. And it was time for us to come back. So when we came back, we could go anywhere, and we settled in Denver, Colorado, where we currently reside. We love it here in Colorado. Our world hovers around Boulder and Denver and back and forth between there. We will be moving to Boulder here shortly. But the bottom line is it's a great place for us to be. My wife and I started what we call Soul Centered, a center for spirituality, meaning, and healing. And that has been ongoing for about 6-7 years, putting more attention on it now as we expand more to spiritual avenues and opportunities for people of all religions, faith traditions, or none. I'm a spiritual mind. I'm a seeker. I find it in Kabbalah and in Buddhist mindfulness meditation, in the Enneagram, which probably comes from Catholic mysticism, Hinduism and kirtan, and yoga. I love spiritual practice. I love wisdom from wherever it comes from. I like to walk beside people, both personally and professionally, whoever they are, wherever they've come from, wherever they're going. I'll tell you more about that in the next video, because I got to wrap this one up. But Soul Centered is our umbrella organization, both the for-profit things that we've been doing and now the nonprofit efforts that we're doing. And on the for-profit side, it's been coaching for me. Ariel is a healer. My wife is a shamanic Kabbalistic healer. You can watch her videos to know more about that and let me know how that goes, because I'm trying to figure it out. She's amazing, deep, and complex. And also, some products, some books, and some Enneagram products. And now we have the nonprofit Soul Centered and the Soul Centered Sanctuary, which is where we're going to be housing more spiritual activities. And my mission, the 13-minute mission, which is under the nonprofit, to bring awareness, attention, and ways to remedy a massive problem in our world, which is the suicide epidemic in general and the male suicide epidemic in particular, called the 13-minute mission. Every 13 minutes in America, a man kills himself. And I've set out to defy that statistic. I'll tell you more about how we do that, or how I do that, in the next video. But those are some of my ways that I share who I am with the world, and also men's peer groups, running peer groups for men. You can learn more on other videos. I wanted to keep this short. We're at now the 8-minute mark. I'm sorry, I'll go shorter on the other ones, but that's the 30,000-foot overview. I look forward to getting to know you on my podcast, your podcast, or just out in the world. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.